once again to our discussions. Today's topic is the role of context when it comes to meaning making. We know we communicate, and anytime we communicate or talk or write to people, we are within a context within which they understand us. And it is also possible we come across words that we do not know what they mean. Context can help us disambiguate those words and get their right meaning. Of course, sometimes context is not able to get us to know the meaning of every word. We may have to put in a more action by looking up the word in a dictionary, learn its pronunciation, its part of speech, and how to use it. But basically, we're going to see the role of context and meaning making. That takes us to the two main types of context we have. We have endophoric context and we have exophoric context. You can look upon their roots being endo and exo. If it is endo, it means it is in. We know those of you who read some science in the basic schools, you knew about endoskeleton. Animals that have their skeleton in their body. Then we have exoskeleton and those that are outside, like the crab. So when we say endophoric, when it comes to context, that idea may begin to pop in our minds. The same applies to exophoric. So context, we have two main types, endophoric context and exophoric context. What are they? Let's take the first one, endophoric context. Endophoric context refers to the immediate words surrounding another word in a given material. If our point of view or if our point of starting is a particular word, every other word in the immediate environment of that word of our focus becomes that word's endophoric context, within reach. So if you take a classroom, for example, it contains a whiteboard, chairs and tables, and likely a projector. All these are found in the classroom. So if you take a chair, for example, endophorically, a table is in the same context with the chair. So by that illustration, we are seeing that the immediate word surrounding another word in a given material is the word's endophoric context. Then endophoric context can also refer to the entire material in which a word or a particular expression is found. It could be a book, it could be a sentence, it could be a paragraph, it could be a whole book. So your whole project work is one solid material. All the words in your project are in endophoric relationship with one another. So it could be a sentence, it could be a paragraph, it could be a whole book. They can all be considered as an endophoric context. Now you take your book, perhaps a novel or a journal, and you're reading. You come across words that you are seeing for the first time. Sometimes we do guesswork. Other times we have to take in a more drastic measure by looking up the word in a dictionary. But it is possible for context to help us at least have a solid guess of what a word means. So endophoric context can help us to understand what a word means. So we're going to see how writers or speakers sometimes can help us endophorically to be able to guess the meaning of a word. So the meaning of a word or an expression can be deduced from endophoric context in the following ways. There's quite a number of ways, but we're going to look at just a few as a guidepost for you to be able to build upon this knowledge. So some writers use what we call restatement. Restatement. Writers may restate the concept of a word in other words. A writer may restate the concept of a word in other words so you'll be able to understand what that word is. So you come across an expression or a word in what you read, that because there were not many, the young man was able to subitize them. Subitize. And then the writer goes on to say that there were just 4. Could subitize have something to do with to count? Maybe. The young man was able to subitize them, and there were just 4. So there's a guess. The context has given you a guess, and you may want to go and find out and then confirm your guess. Of course, while some writers would not give any clue or cue whatsoever about what a word that you are meeting for the first time means, others may use some particular expressions to help you understand what that word means. Some of these expressions are in other words. So I can easily subitize that. I can easily subitize the number of the people in the room. In other words, it is easy to tell their number. Oh, so I have used in other words as an expression to draw your attention from the word subitize to what it may mean. So some writers intentionally use expressions to help you guess the meaning of a word endophorically. Some can say this means the whole town was annihilated. This means there was a total destruction of it. Annihilated. This means there was a total destruction of it. Oh, then annihilation has to do with total destruction? Maybe. So the writer or the speaker is helping you endophorically to guess the meaning of an unfamiliar expression or word. That is. Others use that is. That is unfathomable. Something you cannot understand. They use that is. Others use to put it another way, which is the same as in other words. Some use which is to say. I'm completely whacked, which is to say I'm very tired. Completely whacked, very tired. Also, when you are whacked, it means you are fatigued, you are very tired. Some will use all. Of course, these is not an exhaustive list of expressions that give you a hint that a writer or a speaker is restating the meaning or the concept in a word in another way. And this is done with the words following those words immediately. This is done in the endophoric context. So one way that writers help us to guess the meaning of a word or an unfamiliar expression endophorically is by means of restatement. The concept of the word is given again in other words or expressions. Then another way, still on endophoric context, is by means of examples. Examples help us to clear any doubt that we may have if we come across a word or expression for the first time and we have no idea what that word or expression means. Examples. Some writers give examples to clarify the meaning of a word or an expression. These expressions are used in introducing examples. So, yes, they give an example. And then you understand. Just like in the case of restatement, some writers or speakers may choose to give some links or some hints or cues to help you get the meaning of a word. They can use such as, such, like, as, especially, for example, for instance, other, this, these, followed by a synonym. So let's take the example. Dandelion and other herbs are known to boost the immune system. Dandelion and other herbs are known to boost the immune system. Suppose you have never heard of dandelion. People call it dandelion, but it's dandelion. Suppose you have never heard of dandelion and you don't know what it is. And then the writer or the speaker says, dandelion and other herbs are known to boost the immune system. The moment you hear and other herbs, then it rings a bell. Dandelion has to be a herb. So even before you get into the dictionary to find out what dandelion is, you already have a cue, a big one, and other herbs. In fact, it would be weird or strange that dandelion doesn't refer to a particular type of herb in this sentence. Sure, it could be something else, but the sentence gives the cue that dandelion must be a herb. So apart from restating the concept in other words endophorically, speakers or writers could also use examples to clarify an unfamiliar statement or word they use. So when you are listening to news or listening to speeches or talks or teachings or reading something, pay particular attention to this type of things. So you can note the word down, but you can use the context to be able to see whether you could guess a correct meaning of an expression or word. Apart from examples, writers also use comparisons. Writers use comparisons. Take note that word is pronounced comparisons, not comparison, because the spelling is C-O-M-P-A-R-I-S-O-N if it is plural S. So comparisons. So endophorically, apart from restatement and examples, writers also use comparisons. So comparisons give you information about unfamiliar words or expressions. Comparisons are introduced by words such as like, as, similar to, tantamount to, analogous with, in the same way, the way. Of course, writers and speakers use many ways to compare things. So when a writer says, for example, football, like badminton is an outdoor game. Football, like badminton, is an outdoor game. And then you know automatically, like badminton, and even mention game. It's clear to you that badminton has to be a type of game. The only thing that will be dark for you is to find out what is it. So you may have to go look it up in a dictionary and find out that, oh, this is what badminton is. So writers will use comparisons to compare things and then to be able to help people and identify or guess at least the meaning of an unfamiliar expression or word. Of course, if we talk about comparisons, what naturally comes to mind? Your guess is right if you say contrasts. So, endophorically, some writers also use contrast. It says the dissimilarity of two things gives you the meaning of a word. Contrast is introduced by words such as but, though, although, even though, on the contrary, on the other hand, as opposed to, unlike, contrarily, and all these other words. So when you show contrast, the moment you show contrast, then you know that, oh, likely that's what it means, because contrasted with opposites. If it is not A, it has to be B. If it is not black, maybe it is white. So contrast can also be used endophorically to help us understand the difference or the meaning of words, I should say. So what have we seen so far? We have seen that context is very important in determining the meaning of a word or an expression. No doubt about that. And we've established there are two main types of context. We have the endophoric context, which you've seen that it refers to the immediate words surrounding a particular word or expression. And that speakers, as well as writers, sometimes use words that can help us at least guess a meaning of a word or an expression when we refer to endophoric context. We discussed four of these words. We discussed the restatement, where the concept of the word is re-given in another form so it can be clarified. We talk about by use of examples. Examples will help you see that, oh, this is what the word means. By use of comparison, and also finally by use of contrast. We've spoken about this four ways. That takes us to the other type of context, which is the bigger one. This is exophoric context, outside. This context refers to the ocean of knowledge outside the immediate context of a word, an expression, an idea, a concept, or a personality. I use the expression ocean of knowledge because it is very broad. You might have heard something for the first time, you might have read something for the first time, but you already have a pre-existing knowledge somewhere that could inform you to know something you have come to meet for the first time. All these ones are referred to as exophoric context. So you might have heard somebody say something that is not new to you. What has enabled you to decode and understand that word or expression is a previous knowledge or knowledge outside the immediate context. That knowledge is called exophoric, and it is so vast. That is why I refer to it as the ocean of knowledge. And where can we get this ocean of knowledge? Just about everywhere. Just about everywhere. You can get this ocean of knowledge just about everywhere. And this is exophoric context. So, I said just about everywhere. That's where you can get this exophoric context. So, we can talk about history. Your history, what you know, informs you about how you're going to likely understand something or react to it. So, suppose you've read a lot and you've had a lot of vocabulary in your vocabulary repertoire, and you come across an expression which is not new to you at all, but new to somebody. Your history has helped you. Opinion. Sometimes opinions may inform the way we understand something. That is why people say that they are like noses. Everybody has one. So your opinion could be part of your exophoric context, which can help you in a way understand what you read, what you listen to, what you hear. Your bias can also inform that. Your religion can inform that. Your cultural background can inform that. And then your worldview, the angle from which you see the world, can inform your understanding of what you hear, what you read, or what people say. So, these two contexts help us to decode things we hear, things we read, so that we are well informed. So what it means is that context is very important in our understanding of things around us. And if things are taken out of context, we derive an entire meaning out of it. So, my friends, students, context is important, and do not take things and analyze them out of context, or else you would have a disastrous conclusion on things. I think we'll end here and continue later.